Well, welcome to the show. We've picked up a hitchhiker.
Hello.
Which is pretty funny because we basically were just sitting here waiting, and you said you got a friend coming, and she's turned up fully, face ready and makeup. Might as well jump on the show with us. So welcome, Rian.
Thank you for having me, and hello, Leanne. Thank you for meeting us here.
Hey, nice to meet you. Nice to be on board, guys.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, this is proof that the show's not scripted because I've known you about 30 seconds. So you two have an event on this afternoon, which is how you ended up both together.
Correct.
But you're not from Sydney, you're from Melbourne.
That's right.
And you're just up for this one event?
I'm just up for the day.
It seems that you travel a lot. Are you a big traveler as well?
Very much so, yeah. It's my whole personality.
Yeah. And both in PR, right? So, or more or less, you've got to go where the events are and doing things like you're doing today.
Well, I guess the main point of everything is the more you expand your network, you can't just do everything in your own local town all the time. You have to expand your network, whether it's through travel, whether it's in different industries, whether it's just throw yourself out there. Like we were talking off camera before, just take a jump. Meet new people.
Yeah, the opportunity of meeting people, networking, right? So I'm always asking people about sales in business because it's everyone's biggest, not struggle, but I've never met a business that goes, no, we don't really want more leads. Some people say they're at capacity, but they would take more if they could, right?
Of course.
And no matter how big of a business you ask people where their biggest customers come from, it's usually from networking, right?
Definitely.
And I remember earlier in the year, I went to a B&I event. I don't know if you've been to many of them.
Oof, not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
They're not for everyone.
Nope.
Have you ever been to a B&I?
No.
Okay, so most people describe it as like a cult. Have you heard that?
Not a fan.
Yeah, okay. So it's pretty intense.
I went into one and I said I'm never coming back again.
Would just give you a weird vibe or?
I've been in different groups before, and I think maybe because I had the standard of the other groups, this one I was just like, it's very transactional. Didn't sit right with me.
Yes, I'm a Cub member. I don't know if you've ever been to
I love Cub. Yeah.
Shout out to Cub. I've been a Cub
We
for
love
3 years. And so I went to a B&I just to see what it was about because people talk you into these things, right? And you've got to try it because you never know. Now, there's a lot I didn't take away from B&I, but the biggest thing I did take away is how excited people were to have a visitor. Because when you're a visitor, you think, oh, I'm not one of them. I'm going to be the outsider. But they love it because what they understand is the power of this isn't just one person coming in. It's him and everybody he knows.
Correct.
And we get to know them. Now we get a piece of their networks and their friendships as well. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? It's that getting out of just wherever you're locally from because otherwise you can't get that rapid expansion.
100%. And that's the beauty of travel, like getting out of your comfort zone and meeting people who are completely separate because here you're like 1 degree, 2 degrees of separation from everyone already. And so when you're traveling, especially in like specific spaces, like for me, I'm making this big leap and taking a risk to move my life to LA. And that is like the mecca of, they call them aliens, like everyone just coming into this big melting pot, but everybody has an individual story and a network. So yeah, you really get access when you put yourself into those spaces. And even us, we like met in Singapore running this event. And it's like, yeah, now all of our networks get to play and connect and we get to open doors.
Yeah, it's human nature, right? We love connecting. And if you connect to people on a personal level, then doing business with them is just so much better. It's so much more enjoyable.
I agree. But see, that's the thing. You need to actually connect first. And I think everyone, and that's why I don't like the BNI model, because you're going in, yes, with an agenda, but I don't even know if I like you yet. I don't know what you value. I don't know what you're like. Are you a person of integrity? Like I have a bit more discernment in who I associate with at the moment. And that just, I don't like when people just want to know, what do you do? So I'm very conscious of that side of it as well, because I'm not here just for you to pick my pockets, pick my brain, get into my network, because we both have quite an established network. And a lot of the people that we are around don't want to be online or are doing really, really well. And it's sometimes people try and cross through and it's like, hang on, who are you? I'm not here just to exchange dollars. Yes, especially, hey, let's collaborate. That comment with everyone, it's like, let me get to know you first. And then.
Yeah, because you're putting your name to their reputation, right?
Building respect, building trust.
Yeah, you have to build that first. And I'm a bit more standoffish than maybe Leanne and some of the other girls in our group. They're a bit more like, hi, let's all be friends. Whereas I'm like, nope, I don't like you.
Sometimes you've got to be because it's your way of protecting, right? And as a group, you probably need both.
Yeah.
So I've only been following you for a short time, but you guys clearly have a pretty close group that conquers your world of business together. It doesn't seem like you're doing it on your own. I think that's one thing that women have in business over men. I know you see the bro clubs online, but I don't actually think it's like that very much in real life unless you're young uni kids that are kind of getting out of uni. If you're somebody who starts a business as a 30-year-old bloke, I guarantee you're on your own.
Really?
And I think that's one of the most powerful thing about women.
I did not see that coming because, you've got golf, you've got all these cars, you've
Look,
got
what
all
you just
this
said about
middle
being
ground.
transactional, that's what men are.
Ooh.
Men do not care about you. And they will just lie to your face. It's so. I think that's one of the misconceptions.
Did not realize that.
I did not know
That is
either.
something to say though about like even though women can be marginalized in the business space, we do have that warmth and we do crave connection first and foremost, just like you were saying.
Women have a sense of community to each other. I think that's what men.
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
So you can go to golf days, but unless you're playing golf with them, they don't care. Right. So you might really click with some guys. And of course it comes down to your own personality and stuff. But I think as one of the power that women have in business is just that, we all know you can't run a business on your own. And your friendship circle can really change the performance of how you do things unless you're growing a team. But I can say as somebody who didn't start his first business till he was 27, no one wants to help you. And I think that's amazing about women.
Yeah, because so my first business was when I was 17 and I was in year 12. I also got a scholarship to start university the same year. So I was doing year 12 and uni psych at the same time. And I've always been friends with people older than me as well. And I realized very quickly that there's gaps in friendships, in connection very, very early. And I always got asked, do you have friends like you? And then I started realizing, hang on, I've got a really good group of friends. And then I was like, I can't do time for service. I noticed very quickly time for service isn't going to work for me. Even though I was studying psychology, I was like, I don't know if I'm actually going to work in it. So I started an event management company and a modeling agency because of my network and that ability to pick up on people and just be like, what are you doing? Where do you want to go? How can I help you? How can I connect you? And I've always sort of had that connector essence about me, I guess. And I did have a point here.
So what made you go from not going to get a job to going out on your own? I mean, it's a pretty big leap, especially straight out of uni.
I traveled a lot when I was younger with my mum, and I always saw people doing life in a different way. I haven't ever formally done a 9-to-5, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Even when I go in to consult at the moment and I'm in an office for a few hours, I'm like, get me out of here. I can't, I don't know how people do.
Where do I put my hands?
Yeah, I don't know where to go, what to do. I feel like I'm in jail. I can sit for a period of time, but I knew very quickly that I couldn't work for somebody else for a very long time. And the first time I got a job was when I had to start life all over again a few years ago. And I was like, hang on, I have to get a place and they need pay slips. And I've only ever owned. So I had to learn very quickly the way to figure all of that out.
The world operates on people kind of fitting that framework, right? And when you're the outlier, that's great when it's going well because if you can show you're making a ton of money, then people just give you what you want. But on the downside of it, they start to go, ooh, there's no trust here because they're not tied to a job.
Correct.
I don't know why that means they should trust you more because your job means nothing, like you could be gone in 2 seconds.
Correct. But back to the connection point, because when we do retreats and stuff, we have people come from all over the world and that is the one thing they're chasing. They sit there and they say, like when I ask them, why are you here? Like what brings you here? And they're like, I just don't feel like I've found my people. And I just feel like our group has become a pillar for each other, even though we're in different states and things like that. We tend to lean on each other or WhatsApp quickly and check in, or wherever we are in the world, we're checking in on each other. And maybe that's the missing piece in the male groups.
Yeah, you have to find them because even though you can, all camaraderie and women support women, like even most of my closest friends aren't even in Sydney. We travel, like we travel to Singapore to have meetups. Jess, another girlfriend, she's like we've been to like 5 different countries. She lives on Perth, and we're like besties, and we just meet in all different parts of the world. But we make that effort because we're equally invested. Another thing is like masterminds, and similar. You said you were in a Cub, really paying to play, paying to get into the rooms, because those people who would invest would likely be at a level of just trying to invest in the right relationships as well. So it does take work to really find your people.
Yeah, I was telling someone that the other day. It's not just a time investment networking, right? It's a financial investment, because the free events and stuff are going to get those kinds of people. And if you're somebody who can't afford to go to a paid event, then that's fine. You're going to go to those free events. But at a point, you've got to start going, to get into the bigger rooms, I've got to pay my way in.
Correct.
And at some point, you might start getting invited, but
yes,
you're not for a long time. But we just spoke to Jack Henderson, who came out this week on the episode, and he was saying his first mentor, he bought an hour of his time. You know, people see it as like, how lucky he met that guy. And he's like, no, I went to an event where they were auctioning for charity an hour of his time, and I bought it. Like, it wasn't given to me.
Yeah, and what you're actually paying is accessibility to the years and wealth of experience, and then for the chance to like pitch yourself, to be liked. And then, so one thing is you can pay to get into these rooms, you can pay to get into big conferences, but then the next step is actually being likable enough, to be warm enough or connected enough, or provide a certain amount of value so that you're actually, people want to connect with you back. And I actually, off the top of that, I have a question for you. And I want to springboard this into like a quick spiel, because I had a mentee come to me, and she saw me interacting at an event, and she was like, wow, like, you know, you're so magnetic. You can really like connect with these people. Leanne, I've been going to so many of these events, free events, paid events, and I'm meeting all of these amazing, talented, successful, high net worth people, but I can't get it to stick. Like, I can't, like, how do I actually network? And a big thing for me was like, yes, you can get into the room, you can pay to get into these spaces, but what are you actually doing to be memorable, to be likable, to be magnetic, or provide some level of value? So maybe as a mentee, you need to build yourself up, because like, it's the whole thing of, it's not about people, you know, it's about who knows you, but then what can you provide to them so that they actually want to have you around? So my question to both of you is, what is your secret sauce when you're entering your Cubs or your mentorships or your big networking group, to either stand out or to actually make long-standing connections and network? Like, how do you network?
I think it's interesting because I take it back to like being in school. Who did the teacher remember, right? Not the naughty kid, but why do we call people a teacher's pet? They'd answer every question, right? So when you're in a networking group and you're chatting away to people, it's the person who asks the most questions or answers the most questions, they're going to be the ones you remember. But second to that, I can tell when somebody's a good networker because I'll get a message before the event. Hey, Rick, I saw you listed on that event. I looked up your industry. It'd be good to have a chat. I've got a couple of questions for you. And then they'll come find me there, and then they'll message me again after. And that's somebody who's, you know, using it in the right way, because they're not going to be forgotten. And, you know, people that go to networking events just turn up and talk and then go home. You're missing really on building the relationships, because it's like going to the gym, you know, and lifting as many weights as you want, but then you go home and eat Macca's. You're not going to get the result. You've done 90% of the work though. And you're wasting all that time by not really getting the most out of it. So for me, it's about planning. You know, when you go to a networking event, there could be 100 people, there could be 100,000 people. You can only talk to probably 10 or 15 at the most, even if it's a whole day event. But, you know, if it's a couple of hours, maybe only 5. So you're better off trying to find a way to pick those 5 people.
Intentional.
You might need 10 or 15 on the list because you can't find them or whatever. But yeah, that intentionality of going, my purpose there today is to meet this person. It's not to sell them anything, but it's to meet them because I think there could be something there. Maybe you've seen their personality online and you think you'll click. Maybe you're in the same industry or a supporting industry, but it's about actually going with the intent to find somebody, to meet them, to be memorable to them. You know, I've done plenty of, Cub, for example, does fireside chats where they'll have somebody and there's only 30, 40 people there listening. And I always make a point to go up after and just go, hey, you know, great to hear you talk about A, B, C, D. I won't hold you up now, but do you mind if we grab a coffee? Can I get your number? And they're always open to it. But it's the people that just go and shake their hand and say, that was awesome, mate, thank you, and leave. Then they've lost the opportunity for that further connection. Mm-hmm. And when there's so many people around, you're going to get lost in it.
The art of the follow-up.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Oh, definitely.
Because in the moment, you're so there's so much overwhelm, so much stimulation that people can only retain a certain amount of information. Like they're just gathering faces, gathering people, but it's in you actually breaking that pattern and coming up again and the art of the follow up. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. What about you? What is your kind of tactic in events?
So I've never had a tactic per se, but now that you're asking, I'm thinking what is like the underlying framework or pattern that I have?
Because I think for you, it's so subconscious because that's just who you are. But there's actually beauty in like actually seeing the framework and like picking apart so that we can share it with people. But you have it so naturally.
So for me, I would say, and you've seen me in a room as well, firstly, it's remembering the person's name.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I'm so
good.
bad at that.
I think that's something that I've learned very young because people always get my name wrong. And my mum made up my name, so it's not even a real name. But so because people always get my name wrong, I'm like, I know what it feels like when someone's name's not remembered or mispronounced. We were talking about this before. Or just, I'm so bad with names. And it's like, no, it's somebody's name is their favorite word. And if you can remember somebody's name, the conversation just flows on from there. And I guess with Rick saying, for example, going there with the intention to meeting somebody, that's all great. But sometimes going with the ability just to listen to somebody and make them feel seen and heard and understood, that's probably more my angle. It's like, it's not about me. I'm not there to necessarily add to my network. Bonus if I do. But it's back to, okay, how can I serve? How can I give from my overflow at this point in time of life? So it's very much, hey, what are you struggling with right now? What challenges are you having right now? Well, where are you? What's the handbrake for you now in business, relationships? Sometimes business is going really good, but their relationship behind the scenes is crazy and you just connect on a different level. And then the follow-up is, hey, remember you mentioned so-and-so, like how's that going? And all of a sudden it's like, wow, she's not just about my business or association or they actually care.
So hidden agenda.
Yeah, I think mine is just if I like you, firstly, I'll remember your name. And then I actually want to get to know the person behind the business, the brand, I want to know that person first. And then from there, decide if I want to follow up. Yeah. I'm not just hey, let's go for coffee. I'm like, why? Why are we going for coffee? Oh, just so we can explore and see what we can do. No. I want to have a bit more depth before I even put that time with you because I'd rather spend that hour with somebody that I know I already have depth with and I can get deeper with versus just surface relationships. I would rather have 10 really deep, really like, I don't want to use the word qualified, but we're all on the same page kind of coffees or or in my network than saying I've got 100 associates. Like it doesn't work for me like that.
It's interesting what you said about saying people's name to them because I know for me, if somebody walks up to me and I don't remember them and they say my name, I feel guilty. Do you know what I mean? You're like, wow, I don't even know where I know this guy from and he knows my name. And so you're right. I think it's tying you to each other. Mm-hmm. Because we live in a world now where you don't even talk, right?
Yeah, it's one of the first principles in like how to win friends and influence people. Be so curious, and this is something you do so well. Like we held our own founders dinner in Singapore where we got a bunch of like high level execs, CEOs, Fortune 500, just really cool people in a room. And one by one, as we did our intro, she was able to name every single person in the room and make them feel seen and heard. And you could just feel the warmth and you could feel how, like, when someone, it's that whole Maya Angelou, they say they don't remember what you say. People remember how you make them feel. And by saying your name, it's someone's favorite word. You feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. It's a beautiful gift.
Yeah, I think, it shows that you're just not a number to them, right? Which is something you hear all the time. People don't want to feel like they're just part of your puzzle that you're trying to put together. You're not really important to them. Mm-hmm. So coming back to the kind of PR event space, obviously where you two spend a lot of your time, what got you into that? Because, you're saying obviously you started with business coaching as well. Was it just you saw a need that people wanted to connect and it seems that's kind of taking off now. There's more events probably than ever before.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't start off business coaching. I started event management, modeling agency. I ended up in the fitness world, sort of running them PT, owning them, selling them, flipping them, all of that sort of stuff. And then I ended up doing real estate, didn't work in it, went down Airbnb path. So I dabble in all of that at the moment as well. And because in between, while I was at home raising 3 kids, I also ended up doing drop shipping and baby food companies and, all these. Yeah, I've tried so many different things, but it wasn't called drop ship. There wasn't even a name for it, but I was like, oh, I know I need to do this lean. I know I don't have a warehouse. I know I need to bootstrap it. I know I don't have capital. I know I have to figure out how to. So I sort of came up with all of those things while I had, 3 kids under the age of 4. And then, thank you.
Yeah, tough work. I'm sure there's a lot of guilt around that. I try to bring up the parent guilt a lot. It's something not really talked about.
No, I don't have parent guilt.
You didn't have parent
No,
guilt?
I stayed at home with the kids. I ran everything from home. My first business was I literally, when I was 18, had a VA and a virtual office because I had found 4-hour work week on a flight. The book was there. And I read Tim Ferriss's book on a flight and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So when I got back home, straight away I set up a virtual office. I had a receptionist. I had all of this. I made my business national overnight. So, and that was with the intent of always knowing I wanted to have kids really young and I knew I wanted a lot of them and I knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. But I also had ambition and wanted to I wanted to, still work and earn and be in business. And then, so because I was in so many different things, I set up RTOs, which are registered training organizations. I got qualifications to teach everything that I'm qualified in. I did psych for a little while. I was like, I hate this. Back to the concept of I can't sit in the room listening to people's problems all day. And Western psychology, I don't sort of align with it compared to functional psychology. So I didn't want to practice it formally. And then from there, everyone was like, oh, can I pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? And I was like, I got to start charging for this. On top of that as well, I ended up becoming a marriage celebrant because in my head it was like, okay, what?
All of the colors.
There's so many things. But
There's ADHD on stage.
Absolutely.
Multi-potentialite.
Correct. And so I ended up becoming a marriage celebrant. I did 500 weddings and I learned about, just casually, but I learned a lot about relationships through those first interviews and things like that. So I think I read people pretty quickly because of the range of experience and industries that I've played in. Hence why I became a coach in it. And now I consult and coach. That
wide spectrum of experience, right? Unless you're coaching somebody who's in a niche, like if you're coaching a heart surgeon and needs to know more about growing a business in that field, you probably need to have walked that path. But for most businesses that need help, the help they need is the basic framework of business, right? It's not that there's some secret sauce in their industry they haven't understood yet. Most people start a business because they already know that. It's the business side they don't know.
That's right. And I think overall what I've become really, really good at is like lead generation, building community, sales, closing, all of that sort of stuff because us as humans have not fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
And therefore our bias psychology and all of that has not changed. So whether I'm working in a gym, a beauty clinic, for a real estate agent, a property developer, whatever I'm in, it's the same thing. So therefore, Leanne's really good at personal branding, whereas I'm more positioning, like how do I position you? Where do you want to be after you've built your brand out, whether it's your personal or your business brand? Then I'm all about positioning and being able to set people up in a way whereby now clients come to them because they see them as more, an authority or more premium based on the words they use. Like, for example, the other day I had a lady that I was consulting. It was just a quick audit. And I said to her, based on everything I see, instead of using the word sparkle, I said, your audience aren't going to sit there and use the word sparkle, but they're going to use the word spark. So it's not changing it. It's just little 1% changes that are going to, really, really refine and polish up things so that it lands for your audience and therefore they now come to you versus you pay extra for marketing to try and find them.
Yeah, look, sales is a tough topic in any business conversation because it's a hard thing to understand. It's never been more confusing. So we've got a family business that's 45 years old and it's done the same thing for 45 years, word of mouth.
What is it?
Word of mouth is just in the weird niche.
no, what?
They resurface bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of replacing your wall tiles or bath, they've developed a paint to repaint it. My grandfather started it. It's like the first paint that can stick on a wet surface, basically. And so they train hotels to fix their own bathrooms with it instead of having ugly chips on their wall tiles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going forever, but it's such a niche that and they've been around so long that you don't need the lead gen. If you run a Google ad, pretty much is all you need.
But word of mouth is the best way for anything and everything.
You're qualifying the right people.
Yeah.
As well.
But for some people or for some businesses that are trying to go faster than word of mouth can grow them, you've got to go down the paid advertisement or the cold outreach. There's really only two ways to generate a lead, right? You've either got to magnetize them in or you've got to force your way out to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tough balance because, online marketing used to be basically TV ads or you'd go in the white pages, yellow pages, billboards, but now we have a range of social medias. Obviously, the main ones are what everyone's going to try and be on, but not everybody has the budget or time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where the confusion comes from, right? Is if you're sitting here as a business owner right now, I'm struggling for leads. Obviously, every industry is going to be a little different because e-com is going to be just online. You're not going to cold call people to sell, I don't know, lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
You could try.
Mm-hmm.
So service-based industries is normally where I draw the line. For a service-based industry, branding was something no one really cared about. It was just kind of like, do you do a good job?
Mm-hmm.
But now you've got like plumbers and builders doing incredibly like high production TikTok videos, and it's just like, where do you even start? It's so confusing. But
well, this is where personal brand has now, started creating a funnel to their business. So I like you as a tradie, let's say, for example, and therefore now I'm open to maybe doing business with you. Yeah. Whereas before it was just the business and no personality behind it. It's just a service.
Yeah.
So now attaching a personality to the service, I think, is what's driving people.
With the influx
conversion
of this AI era, there's going to be so much junk businesses that will just sprout out from nothing. And so now more than ever is the time to actually start positioning yourself and breaking through the molds with your voice, with your brand, and whether it's a personal brand or just, your product-based business, really being seen. We are entering a time of like complete saturation. So that's like the only thing that you can do you really have to be intentional about how you're going to stand out, what your story is, what your brand story is, what your tone of voice is.
Yeah, I've been saying this for a while now, but my prediction is that, basically AI, phone calls, SMS, and video is now so good that we're going to go back to just not trusting anyone.
Well, even coaches, right? At the moment, people should start getting very, very conscious of this. I'm not going to reveal too much of what I know from an AI space as well at the moment. Shouldn't evoke fear. But coaches, you usually get paid, or consultants, to tell people what to do. Can't people just get that answer from AI now? From ChatGPT? Maybe the plus version, but they can fundamentally. So the thing here is not about information. It's not about strategy. This is all really, really accessible, oversaturated, if anything. So it's really, really heavy around energetics and really, really heavy around in-person events and connection. And additionally, it's agency, the ability to have autonomy and actually execute. Now, that's the importance. It's not, you can't just be like, I don't know anymore. Now it's like, I know, but now I have to action it. And I think the people that have the ability to action, to jump, to actually do things are the ones that are going to get ahead, because there's so much information and it's going to make people get stuck at a certain point because of the overwhelm, because they're like, there's too much, I don't know where to start.
And money moves when you work fast, when you actually take that action. But to your point, amazing, because it's like, anyone. I was in a conversation the other day when someone was like, I love this girl, I love what she's about, but I didn't want to buy her program because I could just do that on ChatGPT. And so it's like, now if you are in this industry, well, not to say you're effed, you just have to really know how to position yourself, really know how to storytell, and your use case may be different. So instead of helping people with more information, because we're not there's so much overflow of information, it's helping people with action, with accountability, with a sense of community. People are going to be buying into and investing into community, accountability, the things that AI can't service.
Yeah, accountability is a huge one, right? So I use a sales coach. I don't have a business coach, but I do use a sales coach. And my core function, my business isn't sales, but you're not going to win big customers without, the founder reaching out to you, basically, in my industry. And so, but why do I use him? It's not because I need help calling people. It's because I need the accountability. The day's so chaotic. If someone doesn't remind me of the importance of doing those hours of phone calls or whatever, it's like if the term I like to use is like the difference between getting a PT and a bodybuilding coach. Like a bodybuilding coach is training people that know exactly what to do. Like if you're already a bodybuilder, you've got to go to the gym and eat well. You've already figured all that out. But now you need someone to really hound you for the small details that make the difference. Because at that level, you've only got small details left. You've already done the big rocks.
Correct.
Of getting the thing right.
And there's also this, again, back to the psychology perspective of it, you have guilt of letting that person down if you don't actually deliver.
Yeah.
Whereas you can get away with it with yourself.
Yeah. Your skin is in the game.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, my sales coach makes me ring him every day at the end of the day. And if it's a day I didn't cold call a single person, I have to ring him and say, my name's Rick. I didn't call anyone today because I'm a little bitch. and it's like, that phone call's coming and he's going to be disappointed in you. So if you've only got a little bit of time, you'll quickly squeeze in a few phone calls. And it's human nature.
Yeah.
It's why the PT industry in the fitness industry is so big, right? Like most people know when you're eating the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or not exercising enough, but we go and pay somebody really for the accountability probably as much as anything.
Yeah, to feel and the accountability, the energy, and also like that reaches to people's identity. When you could be commended well by your coach, it gives you a sense of identity.
But the purpose of life, though, is so that you can. So you've got your mentee, you've got your mentor, and then that person is being taught by somebody else as well. Isn't that sort of the cycle of life where we go through these stages and that constant evolution and progression is where the joy comes? It's not just the destination, right? So at one stage you're like hungry to learn, so you're at the beginning phase, and then you become the person where you've got a bit more information, and then you've still got somebody, you've still got somebody that's mentoring you, but then you're passing it down, and there's this greater joy of like, oh my God, I'm giving back in some way or form, and there's beauty in that. Like there's fulfillment that comes from that, and then you get older, hopefully, and wiser, and then you this is where your community comes to you for the wisdom, and I think there's something beautiful about that, and you can't get that on a computer screen.
I think a lot of business owners are also stuck in a place where they can't switch from being the guy in the business to being the professional voice or being the influencer of that space because they're just stuck on the tools.
Correct.
So it's a hard switch to make.
In business, there's 4 levels. The first level is technician, right? A majority of people, they build their ego on that. So it's like, this is what I do. This is my trade. This is my skill set. This is what I'm brilliant at. And there's something really fundamentally good about that. But then you're trading time for service for a very long time. And that doesn't really, we've only got a certain amount of hours in a day. And then you build up, think of it like a pyramid, and then you've got manager. So then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'll hire people, I'll delegate some areas and things like that, or I'll try and scale it, but you've still got your finger slightly in the technician phase. Then you've got visionary. So that's the third pillar. And visionary is where you're the person that's going to all the events and people know your face to the brand, and you're the one that's like heart-led with your business. And then you've got your top section, and that's where the entrepreneur comes. That is where all the rest are in line, and they're literally just calling you because they need some funding, or you're doing a quarterly check on the business and putting your input when they want to, and you're able to have time freedom.
And stage 2, from what you've just explained, is probably where most people get stuck, right?
Correct. Because it's like, well, what do I do from here?
It's the process probably to go from stage 1 to 2 is not that big of a jump.
Correct.
But to go from 2 to 3 is a huge jump.
Huge.
So you've got to have all your processes in.
Correct.
And the sales process is probably what people
system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to personal brand, because obviously it is a hot topic at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What are the pillars there to really get right? I mean, if you say to somebody, how do I start doing well at personal brand? I mean, you can just start doing a POV every day. And some people have become really successful online from that.
Mm-hmm.
But, people talk about authenticity and, if you're just talking to a camera, is it really generating leads for you? There's a difference between people watching your videos and it actually generating leads for your business through your personal brand, right?
I'll let you start with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's so much to dive into, but I think when you're starting, really, I think the mindset shift is really understanding that there's so much expertise that you have that is so subconscious because you do it so innately. You're in your zone of genius, and so you don't learn to take out and to break down what the framework looks like to other people. Just as you were saying earlier, you were like, oh, like, because when I asked about like networking, how do you network, you never really put thought behind it, but that's because you're so natural and innate at doing it. And similarly, when we're in a field, when we're trying to paint ourselves as an authority, we don't realize that so much of the boring, mundane things that we just do so naturally is actually goldmine to help other people. So really starting there with a mindset shift of, I actually have so much to say. You only have to be 2 steps ahead of someone in order to teach them something and provide value, even the most mundane things. And there is magic in the mundane. And so, as you're saying, will people like, is it really like useful for people to just like share their POV and share their, experience? I think any type of content at the moment, at least just building the muscle and building your volume of content will still be valuable to people, even if it's not inherently converting. Because yes, you want your converting pieces of content, but you also just want the trust building, the day-to-day thing that you're like, oh, this is shit, like no one's going to care. There's going to be someone out there that will really pay attention because that's what they need.
So Leanne's really good at, because she does a lot of content as well, so very, very comfortable in that space. I'm going to take it back one step for people that are completely new to it or uncomfortable, and I've just come back online. So I'm sort of probably, I could put myself in that. I've always been the one behind the camera and directing, telling people where to move, go, all that sort of stuff versus being in front of the camera or the mic in my hand, whereas now it's starting to land in front of me. And I would say, from a personal brand perspective, you need to get really clear on how visible you want to be. You got to start there, because once you accept that you're ready to be more visible, you need to realize people are going to ask you more questions. Your stuff is no longer private. The people in your world, people are going to find them, know them, ask stories about them, so all those things, relationships that in your family, the dynamics, all of that comes to the surface. And I think that's where people get really nervous before they start building a personal brand. And this is why a lot of people hold back. So it's not about being authentic and showing every area of your life. Like, I show 1/8 of my life on social media. People wouldn't even know what goes on in my world. I show what I want to show. So does that mean I'm inauthentic because I'm only showing a certain side? No, I don't want people to necessarily see my home life, my family life, how I am with my kids. My close circle know how I am, but that doesn't have to be online, because I also have got teenage kids and I want them to be able to decide how much they want shared, and maybe they don't. And we haven't had that conversation yet, but maybe they don't want to be in sort of online and in that capacity. So I think firstly, deciding how visible and what are your pillars. Like, that's as simple as that. Like mine, I like to show that I travel, bit of gym, and business stuff. And yes, we do a lot of like networking stuff, but a lot of my friendships are crossover with business. So they're the sort of things I show, but I don't show things with family. I don't show birthdays. I don't show significant things behind the scenes. I don't show going and holding all these babies behind the scenes. And all right, a little bit of my fundraising stuff I do show, just because people like to know, okay, why did she go to Cambodia? Well, there was an orphanage there, children's orphanage, for example. Or like, I've done that since I was 17, 18. But again, people are just like, oh, you just got into that now. I'm like, no, I've been doing it for years. But so you need, and I'm getting more comfortable revealing parts of me online, but it takes a minute.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's about drawing the lines and understanding what you're comfortable with. I know for me, I don't really share anything about my wife or daughter. Mm-hmm. In real life, I'll talk about them all day long. But online, I know personally, if people are smart asses in the comments and they say things, and I know I won't be able to help myself. So I just try to not provoke those conversations that I know will kind of get to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but then there are other things that I share that maybe some other people wouldn't, that I just don't care about. Anything to do with me, I couldn't care less.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, the family side, you got to decide where you draw the line.
Correct.
You know, if you look at families like, you know, I think about Grant Cardone, for example, you know, his daughters are extremely online now from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the equivalent of being a Hollywood kid.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, and what is that going to mean? Yeah, what's that going to mean for them long term? Because the reality is, I mean, if you use him as the example, his kids are growing up billionaires that are known by the world. They're never going to be able to go somewhere and probably feel like they've found a real friendship, you know, because they know whoever they're meeting already knows who they are and pretty much their entire life story. So you're taking that away from them. It's almost a piece of their innocence they're losing. And I'm not saying I'm going to be the next Grant Cardone, but you never know, and I might regret it later if you let it all out of the bag now, right?
So there is that piece of deciding how much you want to share, but then there's also the being okay with not being liked aspect of building a personal brand and being a bit more polarizing. So actually not playing Switzerland and being on the fence and having an opinion. Before, I used to try and always find middle ground with people and be like, oh, let's find a win-win and stuff. And now I'm just like, no, I'm not for that. It's totally okay if you're for it. I respect you for it. I'm not for it. And knowing that if I'm not quite a big personality online, but I'm not sure if you've ever experienced it, but I haven't had any hate or anything come towards me. But as you progressively move up the chain online, for example, hate does come through.
If you want raving fans, you've got to give them something to really love you for.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're always trying to be fair, then they might agree or disagree with what you say, but not in a way so polarizing that, you know, YouTubers have Patreon accounts and things like this where people pay to help them create their channels. Like, you've got to be doing something so that person really enjoys your point of view on to have those kind of raving fans. But then the opposite, of course, is going to happen. You're going to have people that completely disagree with you. And but you're right. If you know, I'm sure you agree in personal branding as well. The people I follow that have recently become very successful in a short time online, it's because they've just gone in completely with polarizing views. They just said exactly how they are. They're not trying to be polished. They're not trying to please everybody. And then that, of course, you know, helps people that have the same point of view find someone they really will actually follow and watch every video and comment on everything and create a real fan base.
And being honest with who you really are, not putting things because you think it's going to generate
Or it's
sort
gonna
of
do well, yeah.
Like, what can you do that's authentic? We use the word authentic. A lot of people aren't even authentic in real life. Let's be real there. But it's things that you have done all the time. For example, I eat steak. I love steak. I've always, my family order me steak before I've even arrived somewhere, like to a dinner. And then when I started sharing that I enjoy my steaks and putting it online, everyone was like, oh, I like steak too. Oh, and you connect over steak. Like, how funny is that? Steak, supercars. There's certain things that,
that you're going to be known for.
that I'm known for, but I have been that way since I was 18. It's not new. It's not for social media. It's not all of a sudden, like, you'll find me when I was 18, you know, watching even because of the agency, I used to be around the cars a lot and stuff like that. It's not new. It's not curated for socials. It's who I am. Yeah. I've always been around it. Only now, though, am I showing it. So therefore, is it part of my personal brand now? Well, yeah. It becomes it. So people start associating these little traits and connect with you because they're like, I like steak too. Like, it's something so simple, but it becomes like a little thing like, oh, they message you. It's not about business, but they're like, I went to this restaurant. I really recommend you go. Or drop my name when you go, you know, they'll take care of you because you really like it too. And it's like building the connection in the DMs, I find, is where the real relationships flourish when you meet them in person as well.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because, you know, when you do start going online a lot more, you know, especially in a personal brand space, you make so many friendships that came from just a random video you put up. You thought no one would even watch because it was just you doing some random thing like eating a steak. But it was, you know, maybe there was somebody following the background for a while that had no reason to message, and now they do.
Yeah. And
it's the same thing with building a business and customers, right? I've had multiple times where I've put a video up and someone's reached out and gone, oh, I forgot you do that. I actually need that right now. Good timing. Can we catch up?
Yeah.
But if you're not constantly posting and constantly trying to provoke those conversations, you're never going to build a pipeline through a social media.
You may even find that once you start posting again, the people that haven't gotten back to you suddenly get back to you because you become top of mind. And just like a business, whether it's like personal or just business, you become top of mind. Like people forget that we're always constantly consumed by so much sludge and junk that as soon as they see you, it's just like a tap on the shoulder, like, hey, I exist, what I offer or what I do, or there's some way we can relate to each other and a connection can be made. People will slide in.
And just knowing what your message is. Knowing what your overarching message is. Like mine has always been about time freedom. I've banged on about this in person since I can remember, hence why raising kids, being at home, all of that sort of stuff. I've always been about time freedom. And even the way I consult now, I sit there and I look at a business and I'm like, okay, you can get these goals if you do X amount of hours, but where's your spare time? Where's your time for your relationships, your kids, your this, your that, for what actually fulfills you? So mine has always been, okay, let's relook at the business, hence the visionary perspective. I try and bring people up to a visionary because they still are not, a lot of people are not ready to jump into entrepreneur space from the very top. So I try and bring people from that technician to manager to the visionary section. And once they've got a taste of that and they see everything operating really well without them, only then do they step back and say, okay, maybe now I can play an entrepreneur space.
And I think helping people realize as well, when you're in a business with problems, which everyone's got problems, but depending on the scale of them, if they go on long enough, you start to convince yourself it might be you or it's your industry or it's someone else's fault. But when you have somebody bring you down to earth and go, everyone's got these problems. They're not unique to you and other people are solving them.
Yeah.
So let's just get on with it. It's kind of that reminder, it gets so confusing to run a business, especially when you're trying to grow through those stages. For me, it was reading Cash Flow Quadrant. That was the first time I kind of saw those categories where I was like, yeah, I am trying to move from that to that. And the more you educate yourself on it, I only said the other day, there's not a single business problem basically that hasn't been solved in either a book or a podcast or now a YouTube video or even just a random guy on his phone on Instagram. It's all there. You just have to find it.
So the other day, I was speaking with one of my clients and she's fairly new. And the question was, I want that. No, first she said, I want that. And I said, okay, what's the next question you asked? And she said, well, how do I get that? And I said, that's all good. A lot of people do that. And that's a great question. How do I get that? Or how do I fix that? Or how do I solve that? Whereas the way I like to collapse time and just such a simple shift, instead of saying, how do I get that? It's who do I need? Or who can do that? Or who has done that before? To me, that saves so much time. A lot of the time I get asked questions and I'm like, I don't have the answer, but I can find you who has it. Hence why Cub, Entourage, Entrepreneurs Open, all these groups that I've been a part of except Cub, although I've got my eye on that one next. All these groups, that's why, when you chuck it in the chat and all of a sudden everyone's got the ability to say, oh yeah, I know someone, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got it's how quickly can you find somebody that's got the resource for it, even if you don't have the answer. And I think that's
because you don't have the resource to do it yourself, to get it and execute at that level as connecting somebody who can.
That's the power of a group, right?
Correct.
Is because often, like if you're a lone soldier, let's say, you're going to have to pay for that help no matter which way you look at it. Whereas leveraging time off each other,
and expertise.
So powerful.
Yeah.
If you speak to a builder, for example, and they built their own house, they didn't cost them half as much as it cost you because their mates are Bricky and their friends are Sparky and this guy down the road's a plumber and they all kind of share their time because they know when it's their turn, everyone else will help.
Exactly.
And that's the power.
It's kind of bartering in a way. So again, fundamentally, it hasn't, and skill exchanges and stuff like that, fundamentally, we haven't changed as people.
No.
Right? Like, come on. Like, they've been doing this for centuries.
Yeah.
We're just playing with different trades or different skill sets now, but the exchange is the same.
So knowing that, it's like, how can we be as resourceful as we can? If we don't have the money to pay someone for the time, how can we be resourceful in attracting the right people? Because you're just one person away who is the gatekeeper for a massive opportunity opening up for you.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't changed. And I think that way about networking all the time, because if you rewind to most places in the world, the networking or the sense of community was church, right? And that's kind of been lost in society. And I think that's why a lot of people feel lost, because they don't have a sense of community, you know, and for a lot of people, their hobby becomes that. You know, if you're a car guy, you're going to go to car meets, but not everybody has a hobby they can just go and do. Or, you know, for example, if you play tennis, well, you need someone to play with. You can't play on your own.
Yeah.
You can play golf on your own. It's not as fun.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't have somewhere to go for that sense of community, you find it. And the truth is, building a business or trying to figure out how to start a personal brand or trying to figure out how to fix your sales problem or whatever your issues are, trying to do that on your own is really lonely and difficult. And no matter which end you're on, everyone's got the midnight sitting in front of the computer with no idea what to do stories. But the only way through that really is with other people. You can't. It's so hard to run a business. You cannot do it on your own.
So one of the businesses that I work with that's really easy access, and I've found we've been able to build community so quickly, and also put the numbers in the millions at the moment. And we did that within 8 months. It was only a $600,000 business, and then we put it to 1.2 within 8 months. From building community is a gym. Is a gym. So the gym before, 24-hour gym, no touch points, no sort of community feel. It was come in, train, leave. And a lot of people that go there are not necessarily going for aesthetics or physical. Sometimes it's just a mental game of like, hang on, I've had a hard day. I just need to go to the gym. And then when we started adding the challenges into the gym, like a traditional 24/7 gym, like something that everybody could play along with, like last month we did bowling. So literally I was like, get bowling pins from Kmart, chuck them there. What's that? $15. And whoever has the courage to in front of everybody bowl, because it's an embarrassing thing. What if I miss? What if this? All the self-doubt started coming out. The demons were coming out over a bowling at gym, and it didn't logically make sense. It didn't make sense to have bowling in a gym. And everyone was like curious and what's going on here, right? And because the staff were really into it as well, like they encouraged it, and we had a big board with everyone's names on it, and they're like, I want to do it, I want to do it. It created FOMO, created a sense of
created culture
too. So we do this quite often, but then the deal was, if you even try, just try, you're coming bowling with us. We're going to book out the bowling place. You're coming bowling with us for trying, for having the courage to try. We just hosted a bowling night from the gym. Like, it doesn't make sense, but they all went on and talked about it. Within 2 weeks, the amount of referrals that came through. Hey, my sister wants to join too now. Hey, my friends want to come too now.
Word of mouth.
So it's word of mouth, community, feeling, low entry, and just making people have a pattern interrupt as well.
The pattern interrupt's interesting. What I was just thinking, what you were saying then is, you can do something great. Let's use it on content, right? You can create really good content. But if it's just something people watch and think to themselves, oh, that was really good, and move on, that's not as powerful as something that there's something in it that makes them want to tell someone about it, or forces them to share it someone, or forces them to comment. Like, you really got to think about how you do things. So for the bowling, people will go, how was your week? And if they just had a free PT session or something, they would have gone, oh, my week was good, yeah. And they're not going to want to tell someone they did PT and they don't really care. But if they're like, oh, actually random, I went to the gym and they were bowling, then you've got a story to tell. People, like, we're all storytellers, right? People want a story to tell or a story to share. And so, you know, I think that what you're making me think that was the hidden gem there, is just.
I'm all about gamifying everything. I love gamification. I feel like adults are way too serious. They are so worried about being judged, looking silly, playing. They've forgotten how to play. And I've got teenagers in the house. And my house is that house where in the mornings I've got the kids that come to pick up my kids to walk to school, and we're making pancakes. And, you know, so I'm around a lot of kids. And I think it just makes me remember you have to be able to have fun. So whenever there's something in front of me, a task, a this or that, it's like, okay, how can we make this fun? Is it by putting on a clock? Is it by putting on certain music? Is it by, like, how do we change the emotion around even the simple tasks? Again, it's a bit of the ADHD, trying to get that dopamine hit at the same time. Because even cleaning, it's like, okay, let's put the speaker on. Let's you know, do it in a way where it's fun. And I think that's the source. You asked before, what's the source behind things? And it's like, even when we were doing the founders dinner, we had questions up on the screen to ask. So we were getting to know each other, icebreaker questions and stuff like that. And everyone was like very scripted, like, oh, okay, this is the question. This is my answer to the question. And I was just like,
Breaking the rules.
yeah, I was just throwing out other questions. I was like, what makes you jealous? And they were like, what? That's not up there. And I'm like,
Ask me what services I sell.
I was like, no, but what makes you jealous? What makes you and they were like, oh, like, so it's a game. It was still a game for us, but it was almost that pattern interrupt again. And then they were like, oh, well, this makes me upset when this doesn't go right. And then I get a bit envious about it. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, that's the area you need to grow in, and just finding different ways of.
And then therefore you're more memorable. So like tying that to content and what can we actually do with this pattern interrupt? It's like if you're a service, if you're a business, by keeping things just so black and white and predictable, you're not going to be memorable. So how can you insert your personality, drama, polarizing opinions, or even funniness? Like there's so much power in being funny and allowing parts of your personality to break a very rigid, serious topic. So, like, that's why when we watch keynote speakers, the ones that we are the ones that we remember the most are the ones that made us feel something different to just like the typical keynote that was on script.
And Rick, I think you nailed it before. You said we're all storytellers, right? And I do believe that we are all storytellers, but how good can you tell that story?
And do you know how to frame the story? And they're the people that are the most memorable, right? I'm a huge storyteller, and I think that's a superpower. You're making me think when you were talking before about gamifying things. I don't know if you follow.
Love that I make you think.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank.
Yeah,
So good.
I don't know if you know that he very openly talks about women being the highest performers in any business he invests in, like by far. And why he says that happens is because men just go, here's the KPI, don't hit it, you're out of it. And they set the KPI so high that that's what they want to see to reach their goal, but not the goal of the person that has to meet them. Whereas women go, here's a KPI that helps me reach my goal, you reach yours, and here's how we can enjoy doing it. And for that, I don't want to butcher it, but he was saying, women hit like 95% of the targets that they set for people, whereas men's like only 50% because they just set it too high. They treat everyone like shit. And I think that's the power of slowing it down and going, if we're going to make this work long term, which all businesses most of the time are a long term play, right? Unless you're private equity or something. But
I don't want to sit there and say it's a gender thing, but I guess that's also like men actually do thrive with the competitiveness versus females. Females don't really thrive in competitive environments. If anything, they go into their shell, they close off.
Where you might see them winning in that aspect, though, is that they've gotten the buy-in and they're great managers because they can psychologically speak to the needs and the motivations of their salespeople.
Yeah. Look, of course, there's a grey area. Both can be either or. It comes down to personality more than
Definitely.
But generally speaking, being managed by a woman compared to a man, and there's pros and cons to both.
Very different, yeah.
But I think, running a business being so complicated, having a mix of both is what's most important, right? And that friendship circle, like we were talking about earlier.
Something else I think that you said about mix of both, like a lot of people try and keep work, and home life, and it's so interconnected. You need to be able to understand the person as a whole, not just between the 9 to 5 hours or the trading hours of whatever your business is. If you're building a team, you need to really recognize what they're doing outside of their work time, because sometimes that's where the motivator is. That's sometimes you find what the drive is externally and you use that to help charge and reach the KPIs as well.
Yeah, there's two things I always try and understand about people is their love language, because it helps understand how to reward them, basically. If you reward people in the way they don't want to be rewarded, then it's not a reward to them. Like some people might hate going out to coffee. They think it's a waste of time, and then now you're dragging around and they do it because you're the boss and they're not enjoying it, whereas they would have rather a gift voucher or something, so it's understanding that, but also I think when you're a really hungry entrepreneur, you've got so many of your own goals you're charging towards. It's important to not forget that the people in your business are what gets you to your goal, but you've got to get them to theirs.
Interesting. So back to the point about like just being aware of their love language and things like that. I think over time, the more you know yourself, obviously, the better it is. But the more you understand yourself, you therefore can meet people at a deeper level as well. So love language, understanding your fight style. So even fight style. Like when someone's in a disagreement in a work environment or externally, it's like, okay, am I freezing up? Am I this? Are they anxious attachment? Are they, what's their attachment styles? All these things, they actually do play a big part within team and building teams as well. So love languages, attachment styles, your disc profile, like there's so many different frameworks that you can use. And even when hiring, knowing which ones you actually need to hire on, not just what's on paper, not just what their qualification is. As a person, what are the other pillars that
what are their lifestyle habits?
Right.
Yeah.
So
their health, how they're sleeping, because that affects work. Like business is so holistic and so much of improving as a business comes down to your ability to improve yourself and your self-development.
Self-development on steroids is business.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's literally it.
Yeah, it's funny because if you look at high achievers, they're doing wellness retreats and most people have a fairly healthy lifestyle.
There's a reason.
Warren Buffett and people don't.
Doing
They're like
meditation and breath work, like that's so woo-woo. How does that correlate to like numbers and scale?
I'm going to tell you the best vision drops that I've ever had was from breath work.
Yeah.
The best.
Interesting.
And just the ability I couldn't meditate. I couldn't slow my mind down. Breath work was the only thing that could slow it down. And I could see things and I was like, oh my God.
So powerful. The reason why I first learned of breathwork from Tim Ferriss through his podcast. And then you're thinking like this guy, he's so masculine, he's so high performing, but why does he integrate so much of these like spiritual practices? It's because deep down, like you're getting rid of all of the noise and you're coming back to your center.
And I became a breathwork teacher as well because add that to the 79 things you do. Yeah. But also when I had my kids, I didn't have any, I don't take Panadol. I don't do anything like that. And even when I had the kids, I did it with no drugs. I just breathed through it. And I didn't know back then I was doing breath work because breath work wasn't a term. And the one thing I remember was like the fact that we are born with our breath and we die with our breath, but we're never taught how to use it. And it's done on purpose to make sure that we're all in control.
But we're anxious, like shallow breathing puts you in an anxious state. And when people are in that state, they're easily to be controlled.
And soon as you're able to understand how to use your breath, whether it's to heighten your adrenaline, whether it's to relax it, whether it's to calm your nervous system, when you learn how to use that, it's pretty groundbreaking.
I might have to take a lesson on that because I've never tried any of it. But the other day, I've been yawning a lot lately and someone goes to me, are you breathing deep enough? And I was like, I don't know, am I? It's the first time I've ever thought about my own breathing. So
could also be hydration as well.
I've been pretty cautious of that because the heat's getting up there now.
Snore.
Yeah, I'm on a CPAP and everything.
Oh,
yeah. We've got sleep apnea in my family. All my uncles, my dad, everyone's on them. Yep. And but asthma's a big one for me as well. I've actually gotten off meds for the first time in my life with asthma. So
congrats. That's huge.
Yeah, but sleep's I took my sleep seriously maybe 6 years ago, but it was mainly because my wife started looking really tired because I was keeping her up all night and I felt bad. So I was like, I'll go get a sleep test. Now like, yeah, you've got sleep apnea.
And
sleep,
quality of sleep.
Yes, sleep, quality of sleep. Sleep, breath work, and walking, so underrated.
Yeah.
So underrated.
Yeah, I'm pretty cautious of walking and things like that, just getting out in the sun, you know. But yeah, breath work's not something I've tried. But you're right. If you success leaves clues. We've all heard that saying, right? But the clues we look for are like, how did he make that $1 million? We should be looking at things like, how did he stay focused and healthy and not stressed? And, like every time I go to the doctor, I get my blood work done every year. And he's always like, yeah, you should figure out a way to stress less. It's like.
I think breathing will help a lot for you. If you're naturally predisposed to sleep apnea, you probably have some breathing. Just, you could definitely strengthen those lungs.
Yeah, and I think so many people go undiagnosed of things like that because no one wants to be diagnosed with something. It's like another thing I've got, another thing I've got to take care of. CPAP's one of them. Like so many people have. Sleep apnea can be contributed by weight, but also you can just genetically have it. And for most people, it's genetics. It gets worse with weight, but if you've got it, you've got it. And going undiagnosed when sleep is literally the recovery from everything you do in life, it is hugely underrated. But I think we get swept away with do 100 push-ups and get in the sauna and sweat it out. Like there's all this kind of bro science that we're all convinced of, but I'm sure in history they weren't finding ways to get in saunas. They were doing things like breath work and sitting in the sun and putting your feet on grass.
There is a place for all of it. For females specifically, there's a place at certain times of the month for it as well,
cycle.
because certain times of your cycle it can raise your cortisol. For example, whereas other times it can really benefit you as well. So there is a time and a place for all of it. The bro science, there's accuracy there as well as to how much frequency when varies person to person. But I think as we keep evolving, people are just forgetting about their health along the way. And a lot of the things so this is why I moved out of functional stuff, even fitness and nutrition. Like I was doing PT and became a nutritionist because my second daughter, she was 4 years old. She was about 4 and she was losing her hair. And to the degree where she lost her eyebrow. And I was like, okay, something's wrong here. And when I took her to the doctors, specialists and things like that, they were just giving me topical things to give her. As they do, Western medicine. And I was like, no, something's wrong here. And this is when I sort of delved, again, just that a little bit earlier before it became popular. This is where I delved into Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, naturopathy, Ayurveda, herbalism, aromatherapy. I went and studied all of it, became a nutritionist, and I realized with her about when you eat, firstly, it's the food, because back then, like even now, like there's a lot of like your pesticides, this and that, all of that sort of stuff, and lots of processed food. So we put her in whole food, but it was also the state of emotion she was in when she was eating made a difference as well. And then worked out, healed her gut lining, then added back food so that she wasn't totally intolerant to it. And everything grew back and everything went back.
When you say the state of emotion she was in, did you make her like meditate or clear her mind? So not sit in front of the TV? Yeah,
little things like that. It'd be like, okay, let's take 3 deep breaths before we eat. Let's calm everything down before we eat. Let's make sure.
Like a gut association.
Yeah, I'd tell her brother, stop yelling at her. Or like don't like like little things that you wouldn't pick up. And then as soon as she realized how to calm everything down, and then eat, and then just be able to reintroduce things that were like inflaming her, whether it's the gluten, the dairy, whatever it may be, her gut lining healed. And then I had Royal Children's Hospital, the doctors there had me on email as their specialist, even though I'm not a doctor. So they would be like, okay, we've got a very similar case, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, okay, give me the sleep, give me the this. How does the kid handle stress when they're, when something goes wrong? How is the child handling the stress? All of that sort of stuff. And I was like, for about a year, I was going back and forward with them, helping them out as well.
Your gut and your brain is so interconnected.
So back to that thing about being able to make decisions clearly, effectively, fast, all of that. So if we're not sleeping well, or if we're highly strung and stressed, we actually make poorer decisions. So the more calm we are, hence why sometimes when we have our day off and we're at the beach and chilling, we're like, ding, 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 all the money's coming in. And it's like, why? What? How come I'm making more when I'm not even working as much? Like, it doesn't logically make sense, but it's because you're in a calm state. It's because you're in flow. Everything's like just cycling through. So breath work.
I think that's
breathwork's really good.
So many people struggle in that phase of business where you're going probably maybe level 2, you were saying before.
Manager.
Because I see to myself, if you ever, you win a project or a new customer that takes a huge implementation, or there's a big ops side of it that you've then got to take care of as well. Let's say you don't have a team to do it for you. When you're in the trenches doing that stuff, so much else in your business gets left behind, because you can't do that. When you're stuck in that intense, like whatever it might be operationally, you can't think of those things. It all builds up. It's kind of like the derailing of everything, right?
Please remember though, you set that structure up from day one. You have the option of having a different structure from day one. This is a mindset thing. It's not I can't do it because this is how it is and this is a new client and yes, there is seasons of you may need to work a bit more for certain seasons, but okay, I want to do security. What if yes, I've got the skill set and yes, I can cut costs by me doing it. But if I hire someone from the get-go, casually, for example, yes, I'll be making less, but the structure of my business is set up so it's a business. Whereas when you set your business up where you're like, I'm going to fulfill the service or the product or the delivery, you've already built yourself a job.
Yeah, it's totally where trades get stuck as well, trying to grow a business.
So, for example, my son, up until recently, he wants to play soccer and stuff, but he had a knee injury. And I was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And because he has to pick subjects and stuff for year 10. And he was like, I don't know, Mum. And then he chatted to a friend of mine who has multiple pharmacies. And then he came back to me the next day and he said, Mum, I think I want to be a physiotherapist. I said, okay, you've never said anything about going to university, nor have we ever pushed it. But he's like, no, I can see myself doing it. And he said to me, but am I able to buy a clinic while I'm studying and let it run? And once I'm qualified, then go in and then buy more. So I'm like, oh, you want to be an entrepreneurial physiotherapist? He's like, yeah, because I want supercars. I was like, yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. But in his head, he's already thought, I want multiple. I want to be an owner. Yes, I want to have the qualification potentially so that I can, have some authority in that field as well, not just go and own a business, but understand the trade itself, the modality. But in his head already, he's framed it as, I'm not trying to do time for service. I will go in for a bit to make sure I understand it, but I want to run it as a business. So it's a mindset from the get-go.
Visionary in the making.
Yeah, it's a personality trait as well, right? Because anybody who says, I want to give it a crack is the personality type, because there's a large majority of people that wouldn't even fathom the idea of running a business. So I think anybody who's had the thought, they're probably inclined to do it.
Personality and also I think exposure. And I mean, I frequent with a lot of high net worth individuals in consulting, and I see that the way that they're raised is very different because they weren't raised by, so I'm a child of a child of an immigrant, right? And so survival was a really, really big value in growing up. But being brought up under an entrepreneur, so yes, personality, but also growing up with evidence that things are possible because your son has had amazing exposure to people who thought in that way. And again, high net worth people will bring up their kids to learn things like this and learn what's possible. So yeah, it can come from personality. Also, it can come from a sense of safety. So that's kudos to you as a mum to create a safe environment, to show them and expose them to what's possible.
Yeah, it's led by example, right? That seed was planted because, he's witnessed you do it. For some people, that seed doesn't get planted until later in life, or because they've gone through enough struggles that they've forced to come up with a way of changing it. But like anything in life, the sooner you decide to go down that road, the sooner you'll see the progress and reap the rewards. And but having the people around you to support you do it, is probably the biggest secret of it all.
Yeah, giving them the evidence, I think, is evidence of people around you, even if you're not doing it, people around you, and exposing them to it, even exposing yourself. If you haven't exposed yourself to it, this is back to our conversation around networking. A lot of people are like, okay, I want to meet someone new that we can maybe do business. No, go and get yourself in rooms that you wouldn't normally be able to get into. Expose yourself to ways of thinking, being, doing that you're not accustomed to. Even if it is in cultures, even if do you know what I mean? Go and learn different ways, because obviously what you know up until today has got you where you have, but you're missing a piece if you're not content where you're at.
Observing that, like seeing how they respond to conflict, seeing how blasé they are about like a client chargeback or something like that. Just even in the soft skills, it's not even what they're having to teach you, but observing people and mentors and learning that way gives you exposure.
Yeah, it's, how do they talk? How do they deal with things? How do they carry themselves? You can pick up on those cues. If you're not somebody who's been around it before, it's the only way to find it is to go somewhere where there is those people. For me, I know every time I come back from a networking event or a club event or a night or something, my wife always says I'm in a better mood because you're inspired.
Of course.
By hearing other people's stories and what they're up to and what their journey is. And it's a reminder that you've accomplished a lot to get where you are. You've still got a lot to go, and I think it's that constant reminder. And it's a positive thing because there's no longer the excuse of, I'm in a small country town. Like you can go anywhere now and find those rooms of people to inspire you. It's about getting out of your comfort zone and just doing it.
But you need to know what you want.
That is the biggest problem, I think.
And I think a lot of people are not clear on what they want, and therefore all of this comes in front of them and they're Like, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
So being really clear on what you want. So a lot of people tend to look at today and then what do they do tomorrow and then what's the next best step. And it's like, think about like 5 years ahead. What does that look like? And then reverse engineer it. Like, come on.
I think the biggest problem with not truly knowing what you want and exactly what it's going to look and feel like, the problem with that, I think, is when it gets really hard, you don't know whether the upside's worth it or not, because you're like, this is really hard. It's been years. This sucks. I haven't figured it out yet.
If you can close your eyes and see it, it means it's already been given to you from a higher source, whether it's God, whether it's whatever it is. If you can close your eyes and see it, it's yours already.
Yeah, you just got to keep problem solving to get to it, right?
That's
and
it.
exposing yourself.
You don't just see it. Like, for example, so somebody gave me this analogy. Okay, so if somebody mentions a Ferrari and I get excited about it and I'm like, yeah, I want that too. And I felt like that year on year on year, that's meant for me for a reason. You may sit next to me and somebody may mention it and you're like, I don't even care, because that's not for you. You know, your excitement is the clue of whether it's for you or not. If you're intrigued by it, if you're curious about it, if you're looking into it in your spare time because you're just, there's something about it that's drawing you, it's for you.
It's like it's lined up in your path.
Correct. Whereas if you're hesitant, if you're, why do I have to do this? Blah, blah, blah. It's not, sometimes it's not just about being lazy, procrastinating, this and that. There's something in it that's a misfit for you. That's why there's this resistance.
And you may be going down the wrong path. And I think, you know, in business especially, if you start to feel that way, it's scary to go back because everyone knows you as the guy that owns that business or whatever. And there's that, shit, I've got to tell people that it didn't work, or I don't want it anymore, and now I've got to go do something else. And, you know, there's that fear of what the judgment, I guess, of what might come from that. But it's not as bad as continuing down that road that you hate, you know, because people will forget about it and they'll remember, you know, they won't remember it when you're happy and doing the thing you should be.
Why does it matter what people think?
No, it doesn't. But we're in a world where we get caught up on that, right?
Yep.
Especially with social media.
While it doesn't matter, we're still anthropologically wired to want to be a part of a pack and a tribe. And so there's a part of us that wants to fit in. So we have to undo that through breath work, through subconscious rewiring, through this inner work.
But you know what the really funny thing about it is? Us humans are so bizarre. So a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to be successful and I want to be different and I'm not like you and I'm better, and they play this superiority card, and then they realize the only way to connect with someone is when you've got something in common, right? So it's almost like you've already got this commonality, but you're trying to get away from the tribe initially because you want to be better and do better and have better. And then once you get there, you're like, oh, hang on. If you don't find your people up there, because the way you connect is when you've got something in common, right? So then it's almost like you can, a lot of people say it's lonely up at the top, but it's not. You just need, yes, the pool is a little bit smaller, but you have to make more of an effort to make sure you're finding your people.
Yeah, and I think that's where, you know, where stress builds up when you haven't found that. Everyone needs that release, right? And when you go too long without finding it, or you've outgrown a friendship group and you haven't found the new one yet, that can be a really difficult phase.
Which is why people stay where they, you know, where they are, because they don't want to ruffle feathers, or they don't want to experience change, because a change usually means a death of something.
And the announcement of the death. I think that's a big fear people have, is the fear of changing something everyone knows you for. You know, and explaining why, or wondering what they'll conclude on their own if you don't explain why.
Like, I just deregistered last year as a celebrant. So I was a celebrant for 14 years. Never marketed, always referral, word of mouth. Pretty easy when you go to one and there's 200 people there, and then they're like, yeah, I want her too. So it was quite easy in that regard. But I was like, okay, I think I'm going to stop doing this now, because I'm no longer married, and it kind of felt like it's time to sort of play in a new space. However, this year, all year, the amount of people that have contacted me, hey, can you do my son's wedding? Can you do my daughter's wedding? Yeah, we're getting married. And I was just like, maybe I need to re-register, because there's a lot of money being left on the table now, right? But it also means that, like, it's nice to be remembered as that person as well. But then it's funny, because we'll sit in conversation and then it'll be like, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that too. And you did that too. And I'm okay with people not knowing what I do. I love when people are like, what does she do?
Yeah. She's
You know
always
why?
around.
All the things.
And especially when I'm in rooms where people don't understand why I'm there or how I got there. So this is positioning. This is why I say I love positioning, because a lot of people sit there and promote what they do and everyone needs to know everything that they do. Whereas I'm the opposite. The way I position myself is you only know what you need to know. And then in conversation, I'll unfold a little more. And then it's like, oh my gosh, she does this and she does this as well. And for me, that's how, by sparking that curiosity, that's why people DM me and be like, well, you mentioned this. Can I get to know you a bit more about this? Or I had people from a lunch that Jess and I hosted last weekend. I didn't even mention that I do coaching. I didn't even mention my full name or anything. Of course, people hunted down and they found and they just booked in audits. So I woke up the next morning and I had like 7 audits booked.
Love that.
Because I didn't put it all out on the table.
Well, there's a
We're curious.
There's a confidence they see by you not having to say you do it, and then they find out you do it. It's like, oh, because if you were hungry for leads, you know, and you're like, please book this, then people aren't going to do it. They're like, oh, maybe she's not that good.
So I didn't sell from stage. I didn't do any of that. I didn't even mention that's what I do, but they followed along because just asking someone a question about their actual life and caring and being in front of them on a lunch table and sharing a meal, like what an intimate thing to share a meal with someone, right? So we've shared a meal and now they've wanted to get to know me more. And then that's boosted my business overnight. And that's usually
testament as well to you. No,
that's
I don't
usually
think,
how it works.
Yeah.
For me, that's how I like to position myself versus vocally be like, I do this and this and this. Yeah.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much for coming in today. We're going to wrap it up. You've got a big day ahead of you as well. So thanks again. And
Thank you for having us. It worked out good having a duo today.
Yeah, so good.
Yes.
Always bouncing off each other.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Could we get?
Good stuff.
Yeah. Could we get? Is his name? What's his name? Coming in for a video. I'd love him to. What was your name? Sorry. What was his name? Josh.